Good evening to all. I hope I am audible to you. Good evening to all. I hope I am audible to you. Good evening to all. I hope I am audible to you. Good evening to all. I hope I am audible to you. Please write yes in the comment box. So, what we have seen in the previous lectures, we have seen about the blood, and we have seen about the blood cells, their hormone which control the production of blood cells. After that, we have seen the plasma, component of plasma proteins and all that. We have also seen the diseases related to blood. Diseases related to blood, the terminologies we have seen. जो ब्लड के रिगार्डिंग जो डिसीज होते हैं उसके टर्मिनोलॉजीज अपन ने देखे हैं. ब्लड सेल्स देखे, प्लाज्मा देखा है, प्लाज्मा प्रोटीन देखा है, ब्लड क्लॉटिंग फैक्टर देखा है, ब्लड कोएगुलेशन प्रोसेस भी इन शॉर्ट देखा है. सो remember, in a blood clotting or in a coagulation of blood or in a homeostasis, the first step for homeostasis sorry, the first step for hemostasis is nothing but the platelet aggregation. So we have seen that what is the role of platelets in the blood. Platelet का रोल क्या होता है ब्लड में? The role of platelets are nothing but the blood clotting. They are the they will form a platelet plug. They will aggregate and they will form a platelet plug. So they will get activated upon injury or various kind of chemicals they are released after injury. So they will be activated. Now what are the platelet activators? How they will activate? Because in the blood coagulation process, the very first step is nothing but the platelet activation and aggregation of platelet. So platelet aggregate हो जाएगा, platelet will form a platelet plug. Platelet will be aggregated and they will form a primary platelet plug. In that primary platelet plug, different blood clotting factors they get entangled, or they get entangled, and then actual blood coagulation process will start. So what are the activators of platelets? There are activators like, for example, so whenever there is injury to your blood vessel, your blood vessel's inner layer is damaged, the collagen will be exposed. Okay, the collagen exposed during the damage to the blood vessel, that is one of the activator. Then von Willebrand factor, that is one of the activator. Thromboxane A2 is also activator. Then platelet activating factor, one of the activator. Thrombin itself is activator. Then ADP, adenosine diphosphate, that is also one of the activator. Then calcium ion is also activator. Means they all helps to aggregate the platelets. Then 8 is a P-selectin, platelet selectin responsible for the adhesion of platelets, cell adhesion molecule secreted from endothelial cells. Then then 9th is a convoluxin. So again it is a purified protein from snake venom. जैसे मैंने बोला है कि some snake venom are neurotoxic, whereas some snake venom are hematotoxic. So those snakes which are hematotoxic, they will secrete this convoluxin. Convoluxin is a purified protein from snake venom, that is also responsible for the platelet aggregation, okay, or activate the platelet. These are the platelet activators. Okay, so 9 factors are responsible for the activation of platelet: collagen, von Willebrand factor, thromboxane A2, platelet activating factor, thrombin, ADP, calcium ions, selectin, then convoluxin. Okay, now what are the platelet inhibitors? Platelet को activate कौन नहीं होने देगा? So ये all these they will activate the platelet. They are known as a platelet activator. Okay, they are the positive factors. All they are the positive factors. So what are the inhibitors of platelet? Inhibitors of Inhibitor of platelet is nothing but the nitric oxide. Study I have told you in the last lecture, they are known as a EDRF, endothelial behavioral relaxing factor. Then clotting factors like factor number 2, then factor number 4, then 10, 9, then 11 and 12. Factor number 2, factor number 9, factor number 10, factor number 11 and factor number 12. So these clotting factors, they also inhibit the platelet activity. Then prostacyclin is a potent platelet inhibitor. Potent platelet inhibitor कौन है? Prostacyclin. Then nucleosidase enzymes, which will break down the ADP. And ADP, you know that ADP is responsible for the aggregation of platelet. इसका metabolism बढ़ जाएगा तो क्या होगा? Platelet inhibition हो जाएगा. So that's why nucleosidase inhibit the platelet. Right? So once you understand these factors, because whole antiplatelet drugs, they are based upon these factors. So antiplatelet drugs है ना, तो antiplatelet drug क्या करते हैं? They will prevent the platelet aggregation. They will prevent the platelet aggregation and they will act as an antiplatelet drug. They prevent the platelet aggregation and prevent the blood coagulation, right? So all these drugs, they somehow will affect this. Some will block this collagen. Some will block this thromboxane A2, aspirin हो गया यहाँ पे. Some will block this ADP receptor. Some will block ADP receptor. Some will enhance the metabolism of ADP, right? So that's why antiplatelet drug, once you want to understand antiplatelet drug, when you will understand, first of all you should know what are the platelet activator and what are the platelet inhibitor. Platelet को activate करने वाले factors कौन है? ये सब है. There are 9 factors, right? And platelet को inhibit करने वाले कौन है? There are 4 factors. Once you know these factors, what are the activators, what are the inhibitors of platelet, then only you are going to understand antiplatelet drug. So we'll see the in upcoming slide part. Right? So how there is a damage, how there is a clotting of blood. If there is an injury to your blood vessel or damage, and that leads to damage to the inner layer of blood vessel, endothelial damage. जैसे आपके blood vessel को injury होता है, injury to your blood vessel and damage to the endothelium. So what will happen? तो endothelial damage होगा तो the collagen of blood vessel will be at exposure of collagen. That produces the von Willebrand factor. Then that leads to adhesion of platelet to the collagen. Exposed collagen जो है उसको platelet adhere होंगे. It will attach, the platelet will attach to the collagen. Then that leads to activation of platelet. Right? Now once platelet are activated, platelet क्या करते हैं? Platelet, once they are activated, platelet releases the chemicals. So one of the chemical released is a serotonin, known as a 5-hydroxytryptamine. इसको ही 5-HT बोलते हैं. And that causes the vasoconstriction, blood vessel का constriction कर देगा. And that further increases the platelet aggregation. This is known as stage 1. Then again activated platelet will secrete and will release chemicals like ADP and thromboxane A2. ADP, thromboxane A2 ये दोनों release कर देंगे. That also releases the platelet activating factor. ये क्या करेंगे? फिर से platelet को aggregate करेंगे. And there is a formation of platelet plug. This is a second stage. Now third, activated platelet leads to formation of prothrombin activator. Prothrombin activate हो गया तो prothrombin is converted to thrombin. Thrombin will convert soluble fibrinogen to insoluble fibrin. That leads to blood clotting. Stage 3 मतलब क्या है? So in short, whenever there is injury to your blood vessel, exposure to, there is a endothelial damage and exposure of collagen from blood vessel, that leads to release of von Willebrand factor, and that causes the adherence of platelets to the collagen. So collagen has a receptor that we'll see in upcoming part. Then that leads to activation of platelet. Now once platelets are activated, so they will release a serotonin that causes the vasoconstriction and further aggregation of platelet. That is a stage 1, right? Now that activated platelets again releases some chemicals. Wait, I will clear it. So once there is activation of platelet, that releases the chemical serotonin that causes the vasoconstriction and further platelet aggregation. That is stage 1. Now once there is activation of platelet will also release ADP, adenine diphosphate, and thromboxane A2. Okay, these two along with the platelet activating factor, they causes the platelet aggregation and formation of primary platelet plug. That is the stage 2 in the blood coagulation. Stage 3 in a blood coagulation क्या होता है? That platelet, activated platelet, they stimulate the prothrombin activator. Now prothrombin will be converted to thrombin. Thrombin will convert insoluble. Thrombin will convert soluble fibrinogen into insoluble fibrin thread. That leads to blood clotting. That is stage 3. Right? So we have seen this stage, right? So यहाँ पे देखो, so we have seen intrinsic and extrinsic pathway. So in short, what happens? So this exposed collagen causes the aggregation of platelet, and aggregated platelet activate the thrombin, prothrombin activator. So prothrombin activated by 3 things. Prothrombin is activated by 3 things. First, there is an intrinsic pathway. So inside the blood vessel, how blood clotting occurs. Then extrinsic pathway, if there is a tissue trauma, how blood clotting will occurs. And if there is a platelet aggregation, that also activate the prothrombin activator. Once prothrombin is activated, so prothrombin will be converted into thrombin, and thrombin will convert soluble fibrinogen. Fibrinogen क्या है? Soluble है. Soluble in the blood plasma. Now it is converted into insoluble fibrinogen A. So ये insoluble है. Now insoluble fibrinogen A get polymerized to form a loose strands of fibrin along with the calcium and factor number 8 that leads to formation of tight fibrin clot. So platelets are having role in the blood coagulation. So now if there is a formation of small clot, ऐसा नहीं कि blood में blood clotting नहीं होता है body में. So inside the blood vessel there is a formation of small thrombus, small clots. तो बॉडी में भी ब्लड वेसल में छोटे छोटे क्लॉट्स बनते हैं. तो इनसाइड द ब्लड वेसल देयर आर फॉर्मेशन ऑफ अ स्मॉल क्लॉट्स, बट बॉडी हैज अ मैकेनिज्म टू डिसॉल्व दोज क्लॉट्स. तो अगर आपके बॉडी में ब्लड क्लॉट होते नहीं है, ऐसा नहीं है, तो इन द योर बॉडी, इन द ब्लड वेसल देयर इज अ फॉर्मेशन ऑफ क्लॉट्स, बट दे आर वेरी स्मॉल इन साइज. देयर इज अ फॉर्मेशन ऑफ क्लॉट्स, दे आर इन अ small size. They are known as thrombus. Now if there is any clot formation, right, if there is a formation of any clot, what will happen? So damaged tissue inside the blood, inside the body, damaged tissue that produces the one protein known as a thrombomodulin. Now this thrombomodulin will combine with the thrombin, and this thrombomodulin thrombin complex activate the protein C. Protein C is a natural anticoagulant in the body. Protein C is also one of the natural anticoagulant. So natural anticoagulant, that is heparin, but along with that there are few more. So one of the natural anticoagulant is the protein C. That will be activated. Now protein C inactivate the tissue plasminogen inhibitor. Protein C inactivate the tissue plasminogen inactivator. मतलब क्या? Tissue plasminogen is a enzyme that will break down the clot. Okay, tissue plasminogen inhibitor. If it is inactivated, then tissue plasminogen can activate and dissolve the clot, right? So activated protein C along with the protein S, that leads to inactivation of factor number 5 and 8. So all they leads to activation of tissue plasminogen. So ultimately activation of tissue plasminogen. मतलब by chance if there is a small clot in the blood, how body will dissolve that clot? This is the mechanism how body will dissolve the clot. So if there is a formation of any clot inside the blood vessel, no, which is a pathological, अगर कोई clot blood vessel के अंदर आता है, that is a pathological. So body will try to dissolve it by the process of fibrinolysis. By the process of fibrinolysis. So this process is explained over here. So damage to the tissue and endothelium, that releases the thrombomodulin protein, which will combine with the thrombin and thrombomodulin thrombin complex that activate the protein C. Protein C will inactivate tissue plasminogen inhibitor, and along with the protein S, it inactivate the blood clotting factors. Now these two factors are the responsible for the activation of tissue plasminogen TPA, tissue plasminogen activator. What is the role of tissue plasminogen? So tissue plasminogen will convert plasminogen to plasmin. Right. So I hope I am audible. So what happens actually is plasmin will break down the clot. Plasmin will break down the clot. Okay. This plasmin will break down the clot. So by any chance, if you got a small clot or a small thrombus in the blood vessel, what will happen? So that damaged blood vessel, what will happen? So that damaged blood vessel and endothelium releases the one protein known as the thrombomodulin. Thrombomodulin will combine with the thrombin to form a thrombomodulin thrombin complex that activates the protein C. Activated protein C inhibit the tissue plasminogen activator inhibitor. It's inactivation of tissue plasminogen inhibitor, and also along with the protein S, inactivate the blood clotting factors. So these two factors stimulate the they are known as that leads to activation of tissue plasminogen. Plasminogen tissue activate हो गया, so plasminogen will be converted into plasmin. Plasmin will break down the clots known as a lysis or known as a fibrinolysis. So that's how, if small clots are there in a blood, so they are broken down by tissue plasminogen activator, and that's why one of the thrombolytic is a tissue plasminogen activator. So example of tissue plasminogen activator like a streptokinase is there, urokinase is there. Streptokinase, urokinase, they are the tissue plasminogen activator. So fibrinolysis means breakdown of small clot in the blood vessel, है ना. अगर किसी बॉडी के अंदर ब्लड वेसल में ये ब्लड क्लॉट्स बनते हैं, so they will be broken down by fibrinolysis process. Okay, so that takes place by this step, formation of plasmin. So sequence of event that involved in the fibrinolysis, ऐसे होता है activation of plasminogen. How it is activated? During the intravascular clotting, मतलब blood vessel के अंदर clot हो गया, तो endothelial of blood vessel secrete the thrombin binding protein known as a thrombomodulin. So thrombomodulin, it is produced by endothelium of the blood vessel, जो inner layer होता है blood vessel उसमें. So during the intravascular clotting, endothelium of blood vessel secrete a thrombin binding protein known as a thrombomodulin that is secreted by endothelium of the all blood vessel except blood vessel of brain. अब जो ब्रेन में ब्लड वेसल है वो थ्रोम्बोमोडुलिन सिक्रेट नहीं करेगा। मतलब अगर ब्रेन में कोई क्लॉट बन गया तो वो डिसॉल्व नहीं होता है। व्हाई? बिकॉज ब्रेन कैपिलरीज विल नॉट प्रोड्यूस एंडोथेलिन, blood capillaries will not produce a thrombomodulin. Thrombomodulin is produced by endothelial layer of blood vessel. All blood vessel will produce a thrombomodulin protein except brain. That's why if there is a small clot in the blood vessel other than brain, they are dissolved. That is dissolved, or that is broken down by all other cell except brain. Why? Because brain capillaries will not produce a thrombomodulin. Now thrombomodulin combines with the thrombin to form a thrombomodulin thrombin complex. Now this complex activate the protein C. They activate the protein C. Protein C inactivate the factor like a 5 and factor number 9, blood clotting factor, in presence of cofactor called as the proteinase. Now protein C also inactivate the inactivate the plasma tissue plasminogen inhibitor. So once it is inactivated, so tissue plasminogen become active. Tissue plasminogen will convert, tissue plasminogen activator will convert plasminogen to plasmin. So activated tissue plasminogen and lysosomal enzymes activate the plasminogen to plasmin. Plasminogen क्या? It is inactive form of plasmin. And once plasmin is activated, plasmin will break down the clot. There is one more natural anticoagulant in the blood known as a heparin, और एक anticoagulant होता है heparin. तो heparin है ना, क्या करता है heparin? First of all, heparin activate the antithrombin 3. Heparin will activate the antithrombin 3. Antithrombin 3 क्या है? Again, it is a natural anticoagulant in the blood. Blood में सिर्फ heparin natural anticoagulant नहीं है. Most of the students, they thinks only natural anticoagulant in the blood is a heparin, but they are wrong. So there are other natural anticoagulant in the blood. One of the natural anticoagulant is a protein C, then proteinase, then your heparin is there, then prostaglandins are there, then antithrombin 3 and antithrombin 2. Antithrombin 3, antithrombin 2, they are also natural anticoagulant. So heparin क्या करता है? heparin will activate the antithrombin 3 and 2. So antithrombin 3 and 2, they in turns inactivate the blood clotting factors like a factor like a 2 and 9, 7 and 11. Okay, and then that antithrombin 3 removes the thrombin from blood, and that's why no blood clotting. Also because of the inactivation of these factors and suppression of thrombin action. Now bleeding time कितना होता है? So bleeding time is measured by Duke method. Remember, bleeding time is measured by Duke method using the plotting paper or filter paper. And what is bleeding time? Normal bleeding time is a 3 to 6 minute. ना आपका ब्लड 3 से लेके 6 मिनट में आपका क्लॉटिंग होना चाहिए. नॉर्मल ब्लीडिंग टाइम इज 3 to 6 मिनट. क्लॉटिंग टाइम इज अगेन सेम है ना, 3 to 8 मिनट, 7 मिनट. क्लॉटिंग टाइम, ब्लीडिंग टाइम सेम. Prothrombin time is a time taken by blood to clot after adding a tissue thromboplastin. Prothrombin time क्या होता है? These terms are important for your exam, upcoming exam के लिए ये terms important है. तो prothrombin time क्या होता है? It is a time taken by blood to clot after adding a thromboplastin. And what is a normal prothrombin time? 10 to 12 सेकंड. ये क्वेश्चन ऑलरेडी आ चुका है GPAT में, ऑलरेडी GPAT Niper DI Pharmacist में और अदर एग्जाम्स में भी ये क्वेश्चन ऑलरेडी आ चुका है. व्हाट इज नॉर्मल क्लॉटिंग टाइम है ना, व्हाट इज अ नॉर्मल प्रोथ्रोम्बिन टाइम, सच काइंड ऑफ क्वेश्चन दे यूज्ड टू आस्क. 10 to 12 सेकंड इज अ नॉर्मल प्रोथ्रोम्बिन टाइम. Now partial prothrombin time is a time taken by blood, time taken for a blood to clot after adding the activators such as the phospholipids. पार्शियल प्रोथ्रोम्बिन टाइम क्या है? प्रोथ्रोम्बिन टाइम में क्या है कि थ्रोम्बोप्लास्टिन ऐड किया जाता है, उसके बाद में कितना टाइम लगता है ब्लड क्लॉटिंग के लिए? तो टाइम रिक्वायर्ड टू ब्लड, टाइम टेकन बाय ब्लड टू क्लॉट आफ्टर एडिंग थ्रोम्बोप्लास्टिन, दैट इज अ प्रोथ्रोम्बिन टाइम एंड इट इज अ 10 to 12 सेकंड. Partial prothrombin time means again time required to blood to clot after adding a activator known as a phospholipids and calcium. So partial prothrombin time is around 30 to 40 seconds. Normal partial prothrombin time. Now, there is one more term known as international normalized ratio and thrombin time. Thrombin time. Thrombin time क्या है? It is a time taken by blood to clot after adding a thrombin into the blood. It is done to investigate the presence of heparin in the plasma or to detect the fibrinogen abnormalities. तो thrombin time कितना होता है? Again 10 to 20 seconds. So now we'll see the classification of anticoagulants. We'll see the classification of anticoagulants. So coagulants, anticoagulants and thrombolytics. Okay, so coagulant, anticoagulant and thrombolytics. So again very important chapter for your upcoming GPAT, Niper, even drug inspector and government pharmacist exam. So what is meant by coagulant? Coagulant means any drugs or chemical that is the blood clotting. What is coagulants or pro-coagulants? Anticoagulants means those drugs which prevent the blood clotting. They are known as anticoagulants. Thrombolytics means those drugs which will break down the clot or thrombus. That's why thrombolytic. तो कोएगुलेंट्स, एंटीकोएगुलेंट, थ्रोम्बोलाइटिक्स, ये टर्म्स क्या है? कोएगुलेंट मतलब जो ब्लड को कोएगुलेट करेगा, है ना, एनी एजेंट दैट विल हेल्प टू कोएगुलेट द ब्लड नोन एज कोएगुलेंट. एंटीकोएगुलेंट मतलब एनी एजेंट जो ब्लड को कोएगुलेट नहीं होने देगा, एंटीकोएगुलेंट, है ना. थ्रोम्बोलाइटिक मतलब क्या है कि जो भी क्लॉट बना है ब्लड में उसका क्लॉट को ब्रेक डाउन करने वाला ड्रग, उन्होंने थ्रोम्बोलाइटिक, क्योंकि क्लॉट को अपन थ्रम्बस बोलते हैं. थ्रोम्बोलाइटिक मतलब थ्रम्बस को ब्रेक डाउन करने वाला. तो ड्रग which causes the coagulation known as coagulant, which prevent the coagulation known as anticoagulants, and drug which break down the clot known as the thrombolytics. These three terms. Okay, is that clear? Now we have already seen this blood coagulation process. So blood coagulation process that takes place in a different way. Let's say intrinsic pathway, extrinsic pathway. We have already seen. The coagulation of blood takes place in a 3 stages: stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, है ना. stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, है ना. stage 3 and stage 2 and stage 3, है ना, ये जो दोनों stage 2 and stage 3 they are common for all pathway. Now intrinsic pathway means coagulation of blood inside the blood vessel, clotting of blood inside the blood vessel. blood vessel के अंदर कैसे clotting होता है blood का, that is a intrinsic pathway. So whenever there is a damage to your blood vessel inside the blood vessel, or if there is a roughening of endothelial, so endothelial damage that leads to production of these two protein, kallikrein and high molecular weight kinogen. These two proteins, they start the blood clotting factor activation cascade. Means these are the blood clotting factors. Like ये जो blood clotting factors, they are the inactive blood clotting factors. So they are activated. The factor number 12. So that is activated to factor number 12A, the active form. Along with the kinogen, it will activate the factor number 11 to 11A. 11A along with the calcium activate the factor 9A. And factor number 9A along with the factor number 8 and calcium activate the factor number 10 to 10A. Factor number 10 and factor number 10 along with the factor number 5 they are known as a prothrombin activator. They will activate the prothrombin. Once prothrombin is converted into thrombin. Prothrombin converted into thrombin. Now thrombin convert soluble fibrinogen to the insoluble fibrinogen. Now insoluble fibrinogen get polymerization hota hai, and there is a formation of loose strands of fibrin, and these loose strands of fibrin along with the fibrin stability factor, that is 13, and calcium, formation of clot. Now extrinsic pathway क्या है कि tissue trauma, or there is a release of tissue thromboplastin. Along because of that, glycoprotein and phospholipids are released. These along with the factor number 7 activate the factor number 10. Factor number 10 along with the calcium and factor number 5 is a prothrombin activator. Baki sub step same. Again, that exposed collagen also attract the platelet. There is a platelet aggregation, release of phospholipids, and activation of prothrombin. Then remaining step are same. That's how blood is coagulated, known as a hemostasis, or known as a clotting of blood. Hemostasis, blood coagulation of clotting of blood. Now, what do you mean by anticoagulants? Anticoagulants मतलब क्या है? Drug that prevent the coagulation of blood. Anticoagulants means what? These are the drug which prevent the coagulation of blood. Anticoagulants, these are the drug which will prevent the coagulation of blood. Now anticoagulant जो है, they are classified into two type. Some drugs are given by injectable route, known as a parenteral anticoagulant, and some drugs they are given by oral route, known as a oral anticoagulant. So anticoagulants are of different types. Some are the given by parenteral route, known as a parenteral anticoagulant. Some are the given by oral route, known as a oral anticoagulant. I hope I am audible to you. I hope I am audible to you. Right. So anticoagulants means what? These are the drug which will prevent the blood coagulation. Anticoagulants are the drug which will prevent the blood coagulation. So they are classified into majorly two classes. So drug which are given by parenteral routes and drug which are given by oral route. Parenteral anticoagulant and oral anticoagulant. Now parenteral anticoagulants, they are given by injectable route, right? Now in that there are two types. So first type है indirect thrombin inhibitor. Indirect thrombin inhibitor. जो thrombin है उसको inhibit करने वाले, but indirectly. So example in that is a heparin. Question already आ चुका है. Heparin is a indirect thrombin inhibitor. Classification के ऊपर बहुत सारे questions आते हैं. So heparin is a natural anticoagulant in the blood, which is an indirect thrombin inhibitor. क्यों? Because this heparin will activate the antithrombin 3. Will not inhibit the thrombin directly. Heparin जो है, heparin will activate the antithrombin 2 and 3, and that in turn inactivate the thrombin. That's why heparin is a indirect thrombin inhibitor. So native heparin जो है, that is a unfractionated heparin. जो heparin liver से isolate किया था, बाद में heparin was first time isolated from liver because as the name indicates, hepa is a prefix for liver. So heparin is an indirect thrombin inhibitor. Then heparin is broken down into different low molecular weight heparin. Low molecular weight heparin. So for example, enoxaparin is there, ribavirin, natroparin, dalteparin, pernaparin, adraparin, fondaparinux, and diparanoids, danaparoids. तो इनडायरेक्ट थ्रोम्बिन इनहिबिटर में हिपेरिन एंड इट्स डेरिवेटिव्स आएंगे। हिपेरिन एंड उसके जो लो मोलिकुलर वेट हिपेरिन के डेरिवेटिव है, जैसे इनॉक्सापेरिन, रिवापेरिन, नेट्रोपेरिन, डेल्टापेरिन, परनापेरिन ना, एड्रेनापेरिन, फोंडापेरिनक्स एंड टेनापेरॉइड। जो हिपेरिन एंड हिपेरोनॉइड्स आता है, तो दे आर नथिंग बट द इनडायरेक्ट थ्रोम्बिन इनहिबिटर। नाउ डायरेक्ट थ्रोम्बिन इनहिबिटर कौन है? जो डायरेक्टली थ्रोम्बिन को इनहिबिट करते हैं ना। यू नो दैट थ्रोम्बिन इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। प्रोथ्रोम्बिन से लेके prothrombin is converted into thrombin, and then only blood clotting will take place. So direct thrombin inhibitors, they are nothing but the remember इसके ऊपर भी क्वेश्चन आ चुका है, लेपिरुडिन, विवालिरुडिन एंड अर्गेटोबैन। लेपिरुडिन, विवालिरुडिन, अर्गेटोबैन, they are known as a direct thrombin inhibitor. They inhibit thrombin directly. But heparin and its derivative, they inhibit the thrombin indirectly. They activate the antithrombin 3 and antithrombin 2, then in turn inactivate the thrombin. Now oral anticoagulant given by oral route. There are different classes, like a first one is a coumarin derivative. इसमें क्या है? These are the drug which are having coumarin ring. So coumarin derivative. So there is one story behind this. I will explain you later on. Coumarin derivative, in that you have bis-hydroxycoumarin, known as the dicoumarol. Then warfarin sodium, acinocoumarol. Then acinocoumarol is also known as a nicomalone. Then ethyl biscoumacetate. So these are the coumarin derivative. Matlab there is a coumarin ring. No? Then second is a direct factor 10 inhibitor. जो 10 is toward power factor. Direct factor 10 inhibitor is a rivaroxaban. Then oral direct thrombin inhibitor. Is nothing but the dabigatran ethoxylate. Oral anticoagulant में there are different classes. So coumarin derivative, direct factor 10 inhibitor, oral direct thrombin inhibitor. And now all these other anticoagulant are in vivo. ये क्या है? इन विवो मतलब क्या? इन विवो मतलब इनसाइड द लिविंग सिस्टम. इन विवो inside the system. All heparin and all these anticoagulants, their anticoagulant activity is shown in vivo when they are inside the body. तो जो heparin, ये जो drugs है, they will act as an anticoagulant inside the body only. That's why in vivo. They will not act as a in vitro. They will not act as an anticoagulant outside the body. So what are the in vitro anticoagulant? इसके ऊपर भी क्वेश्चन ऑलरेडी आ चुका. In vitro anticoagulants are nothing but the, again remember, heparin, sodium editate, sodium citrate and sodium oxalate. Sodium editate, sodium citrate, sodium oxalate, they are the in vitro anticoagulant. तो आप देखो जब भी ब्लड आपका विड्रॉ करते हैं फॉर द ब्लड एनालिसिस, देयर इज अ वन कंटेनर. इन दैट कंटेनर दे यूज्ड टू हैव सोडियम साइट्रेट एंड सोडियम ऑक्सलेट. ये दो एंटीकोएगुलेंट उसमें ऑलरेडी होते हैं, वो कंटेनर में ब्लड लेते हैं. नाउ हिपेरिन इज नोन एज इन विट्रो एज वेल एज इन विवो एंटीकोएगुलेंट. इसके ऊपर क्वेश्चन भी ऑलरेडी आ चुका है. Which anticoagulant is in vivo as well as in vitro? So remember, heparin is a in vivo as well as in vitro anticoagulant. Now fibrinolytics means what? Fibrinolytics means these are the drug which will break down the clot. अगर blood vessel में clot बन गए आपके, that is broken down by few drugs. Drug which will break down the clot, fibrin clot, known as a fibrinolytics. जो क्लॉट को ब्रेक डाउन करेंगे, फाइब्रोलाइसिस करेंगे, दे आर नोन एज अ फाइब्रोलाइटिक्स और थ्रोम्बोलाइटिक्स. दे विल ब्रेक डाउन द फाइब्रिन क्लॉट or thrombus. That's why thrombolytic or fibrinolytics. Example is a streptokinase, urokinase. Streptokinase, urokinase. They are the tissue plasmin. All these are the tissue plasminogen activator. But streptokinase is often from Streptomyces species. That's why इसको बोलते हैं streptokinase. क्योंकि ये microbial origin है. So it was isolated from Streptomyces bacteria. That's why streptokinase. Then urokinase means it was isolated from the urine. As the name indicate, urokinase, urine से आया है, so it is a urokinase. Then alteplase, retaplase, and tenecteplase, all they are the made by recombinant DNA technology. Recombinant DNA technology. Recombinant DNA technology में tissue plasminogen activator, alteplase, इसके ऊपर भी क्वेश्चन आ चुका है बहुत बार, मल्टीपल टाइम्स. ओके, तो फाइब्रोलाइटिक्स और थ्रोम्बोलाइटिक्स, दे विल ब्रेक डाउन द क्लॉट. जो क्लॉट बना है उसको ब्रेक डाउन करने वाले. एंटीकोगुलेंट क्या है? जो क्लॉट बनने नहीं देंगे. एंटी प्लेटलेट क्या है? जो प्लेटलेट को एग्रीगेट नहीं होने देंगे. दे विल प्रिवेंट द फर्स्ट स्टेप ऑफ ब्लड कोएगुलेशन फॉर्मेशन. नाउ एंटी फाइब्रोलाइटिक्स मतलब क्या? एंटी फाइब्रोलाइटिक्स, तो फाइब्रोलाइटिक्स मतलब दे विल ब्रेक डाउन द ब्लड क्लॉट, और थ्रोम्बोलाइटिक्स मतलब दे विल ब्रेक डाउन द ब्लड क्लॉट. बट एंटी फाइब्रोलाइटिक्स और एंटी थ्रोम्बोलाइटिक्स मतलब क्या? ये जो ब्रेकडाउन का काम करते हैं उनके अपोजिट काम करेंगे. कौन? एंटी फाइब्रोलाइटिक्स और एंटी थ्रोम्बोलाइटिक्स. तो दे आर नोन एज अ प्रो कोएगुलेंट. दे आर नोन एज अ प्रो कोएगुलेंट. So they are used to prevent the bleeding. These drugs are used to prevent the bleeding. First one is epsilon amino caprioic acid. Epsilon amino caprioic acid, and then tranexamic acid. Tranexamic acid. There is one tablet of this tranexamic acid known as a xylate. Ethamxylate. Xylate. Tranexamic acid रहेगा. Epsilon amino capric acid. They are known as a coagulant. They are used to prevent the bleeding. Now, antiplatelet drug क्या है? These are the drug which will prevent the formation of platelet plug. So antiplatelet drug or anti-thrombotic drugs, they will prevent the thrombus formation. So in that you have 4 classes. पहला होता है thromboxane synthesis inhibitor. क्योंकि thromboxane क्या है? Thromboxane is a platelet activating factor. मतलब प्लेटलेट को एक्टिवेट करता है. तो thromboxane synthesis inhibitor एग्जांपल इज एस्पिरिन. मल्टीपल टाइम्स क्वेश्चन आता है. ओके, thromboxane synthesis inhibitor एस्पिरिन. सेकंड क्लास देखो, प्लेटलेट साइक्लिक एएमपी एनहांसर. प्लेटलेट साइक्लिक एएमपी एनहांसर. प्लेटलेट के अंदर साइक्लिक एएमपी ज़्यादा जितना होगा, प्लेटलेट है ना एग्रीगेट नहीं होंगे. जितना साइक्लिक है ना, जितना साइक्लिक एएमपी ज़्यादा होगा है ना, तो प्लेटलेट एग्रीगेट नहीं होंगे. तो प्लेटलेट साइक्लिक जीएमपी एनहांसर एग्जांपल इज डाइपिरिडामोल. देन थर्ड क्लास है P2Y12 receptor. P212 and P2Y12 receptor known as a fluorogenic receptor. Now P2Y12 receptor blocker, they are known as a eclopidine, clopidogrel and prasugrel. इनको आप, they are also known as ADP receptor antagonist. They are also known as ADP receptor antagonist. जो ADP होता है ना, एडेनोसाइन मोनोडाइफॉस्फेट, ADP receptor antagonist. Then fourth class is the GP2B3A receptor antagonist. जो कोलेजन रिसेप्टर होता है, कोलेजन के ऊपर जो रिसेप्टर होता है, they are known as a GP2B3A receptor antagonist. और इसके ऊपर मल्टीपल टाइम्स क्वेश्चन पूछे. GP2B3A receptor antagonist are nothing but the AB6 map. eptipibatide and tibropipam. So these are the drugs known as a anticoagulant. These are the drugs known as anticoagulant, thrombolytics, and antiplatelet. Right? This is a classification given in the KD Tripathi, but we are used to discuss the classification given by other books also. ये जो क्लासिफिकेशन है केडी त्रिपाठी में दिया है, बट बस उतना ही नहीं करना है आपको, बाकी भी करना है. जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल दिस. So drugs used in the disorders of coagulation. So drugs which are used in the disorder of blood coagulation. So procoagulant means what? They will helps to coagulate the blood. They are known as a procoagulant. कौन है procoagulant? कौन blood को coagulate करने के लिए help करेगा? They will stimulate the coagulation process. So adrenaline is there, thrombin is there, fibrin is there. All they are the clotting factor, fibrin, thrombin. Then gelatin form. Suppose अगर आपको कट हो गया, ब्लीडिंग नहीं रुक रहा है, जेलेटिन का फॉर्म वहाँ पे रब किया, ब्लीडिंग स्टॉप हो जाता है. Then astringent जो कंपाउंड होता है astringent, they will precipitate the protein and stop the bleeding. Vitamin K is also procoagulant. तो उनको बोलोगे these are the drug which helps in the blood coagulation process. They help to coagulate the blood. Okay. Now anticoagulant class क्या है? Drug acting on a disorders of coagulation. पहला है प्रोकोएगुलेंट, जिनका ब्लीडिंग ज़्यादा होता है उनको कोएगुलेंट देते, प्रोकोएगुलेंट. जिनका ब्लीडिंग क्लॉट होता है उनको एंटीकोएगुलेंट देते. एंटीकोएगुलेंट लाइक हिपेरिन, लो मोलिकुलर हिपेरिन वी हैव सीन. देन ओरल एंटीकोएगुलेंट में वारफेरिन डेरिवेटिव आएगा, नाउ कॉमेलोन, फिनिन, डायोन एक्सेट्रा, है ना. एंटीप्लेटलेट दे विल प्रिवेंट द प्लेटलेट प्लग फॉर्मेशन. एस्पिरिन आता है, डाइपिरामोल आता है, क्लोपिट्रोग्रेल, टिक्लोपिडिन, राउसोग्रेल, एबिसिक्सिमेब, इप्टापिपेटाइड, इपोप्रोस्टेनॉल, that the antiplatelet. Now fibrinolytic means they will break down the blood clot, also known as thrombolytic. Streptokinase from Streptomyces species, urokinase from urine, alteplase and retiplase and anistaplase. These are the recombinant DNA technology made tissue plasminogen activator. Anti-fibrinolytic मतलब क्या? They will act against the fibrinolytic. EC है ना, epsilon amino capric acid, EACA. Then tranexamic acid and apoproteinin, aproteinin, tranexamic acid and epsilon amino capric acid. They are the anti-fibrinolytic. So again you will see the anticoagulant over here. पर फिर से एंटीकोएगुलेंट देख लो. दिस इज अ क्लासिफिकेशन गिवन इन द वर्ष गुप्ता. एंटीकोएगुलेंट्स आर अगेन oral anticoagulant, and parenteral anticoagulants. ओरल में क्या है? तो विटामिन के सिंथेसिस इनहिबिटर. विटामिन के इनहिबिटर इज वारफेरिन, डाइकॉमेरॉल, एसिनोकॉमेरिन, Dione means they are the coumarin derivative. Because they inhibit the vitamin K epoxidase enzyme. They are a coumarin derivative. Then second they are factor 10 inhibitor, short power factor inhibitor, rivaroxaban, apixaban. Then direct thrombin inhibitor. Zimelgatran, dabigatran, etexilate. और पेरेंटल एंटीकोगुलेंट में क्या है? वही हिपेरिन है उसके डेरिवेटिव. तो इनडायरेक्ट थ्रोम्बिन इनहिबिटर मतलब हिपेरिन है इट्स डेरिवेटिव. तो पहला है आपका अनफ्रैक्शनेटेड हेपेरिन, दूसरा है आपका लो मोलिकुलर वेट हेपेरिन लाइक इनॉक्सापेरिन, डेल्टापेरिन, टिंजापेरिन। देन फोंडापेरिनक्स एंड एड्रापेरिनक्स। डायरेक्ट थ्रोम्बिन इनहिबिटर कौन है फिर? ये लेपिरुडिन, बिवालिरुडिन, लेपिरुडिन, बिवालिरुडिन, इरुडिन, अर्गेटोब्रैन एंड मेगाट्रॉन, है ना, मेलागेट्रॉन। तो दीज आर द एंटीकोगुलेंट्स, ठीक है। व्हाट हैपेंस, व्हाई दे आर यूज्ड? तो कोएगुलेंट, एंटीकोगुलेंट एंड थ्रोम्बोलाइटिक्स। नाउ एंटीकोगुलेंट ड्रग्स दे एक्ट ऑन अ, ये किस पे एक्ट होते हैं एंटीकोगुलेंट ड्रग्स? एंटीकोगुलेंट ड्रग्स दे एक्ट ऑन अ 2-3 things. So anticoagulant drugs, they will act on either platelet, so platelet aggregation inhibition, or anticoagulant drug will act on a clot or fibrin or thrombus formation, or they break down the clot. So how anticoagulants act? So anticoagulant के लिए there are 3 targets, all they are the targets for anticoagulant drug. ये टारगेट से 3 क्या? एंटीकोगुलेंट में इनहिबिट द प्लेटलेट एग्रीगेशन इज वन टारगेट, एंटीकोगुलेंट में प्रिवेंट द क्लॉट फॉर्मेशन, है ना। तो प्लेटलेट एग्रीगेशन को इनहिबिट करने वाले एंटी प्लेटलेट ड्रग होते हैं, इनको एंटीकोगुलेंट प्रॉपरली बोलते हैं। एंड ये जो क्लॉट बना है उसको डिसॉल्व करेंगे, फाइब्रोनोलाइटिक्स। सो एंटीकोगुलेंट ड्रग्स दे आर स्टडीड अंडर दीज 3 हेडिंग्स। Anticoagulants, they are studied under the 3 headings: platelet, they inhibit the platelet aggregation, anticoagulant act on platelet aggregation or clot formation or breakdown of clot, blood coagulation or thrombus formation or hemostasis. These terms are the same. ये ब्लड कोएगुलेशन जो है उसको ही थ्रोम्बस फॉर्मेशन बोलते हैं, उसको ही hemostasis बोलते हैं। व्हाट इज दैट? इट इज नथिंग बट द स्टॉपेज ऑफ ब्लीडिंग फ्रॉम द डैमेज्ड ब्लड वेसल, स्टॉपेज ऑफ ब्लीडिंग फ्रॉम द डैमेज्ड ब्लड वेसल। Now whenever there is a cut to your blood vessel, that leads to constriction of capillary blood vessel and adherence of platelet to the exposed collagen fibril, है ना, in the subendothelial layer of your ब्लड वेसल वाया कोलेजन रिसेप्टर। कोलेजन रिसेप्टर क्या है? ग्लाइकोप्रोटीन 2A, है ना, एक्सपोज कोलेजन। नाउ this leads to activation and release of some platelet preformed platelet granule and de novo mediators of coagulation। मतलब ये एक्टिवेट होने के बाद में प्लेटलेट, जो प्लेटलेट के ग्रैन्यूल्स होते हैं, ग्रैन्यूल्स ऑफ प्लेटलेट विल गेट डीग्रैनुलेटेड एंड दे रिलीज सम केमिकल्स, ADP, thromboxane A2 and 5-HT, which causes the more platelet aggregation। ये ज़्यादा प्लेटलेट एग्रीगेट करेंगे because they are the pro-aggregatory factor, leads to primary coagulation plug, formation of primary coagulation platelet plug। प्लेटलेट विल लूज देयर सेल मेम्ब्रेन। ये प्लेटलेट जैसे ये बनता है तो वो सेल मेम्ब्रेन लूज कर देते, एंड देयर इज अ रिलीज ऑफ विस्कस मास दैट आल्सो स्टिमुलेट द assembling of clotting factors and therefore amplify the thrombin formation। मतलब क्या है? सिंपल है, whenever there is a cut to your blood vessel, तो एक्सपोजर हो गया कोलेजन का, दैट कोलेजन रिसेप्टर गेट्स एक्टिवेटेड, दे कॉल्स द प्लेटलेट टू कम एंड adhere। once platelet will adhere to that collagen, platelet will degranulate and release some chemicals. Which chemicals? Like this ADP, thromboxane A2 and 5-HT. These are known as the pro-aggregatory factors. they will call more platelets to come. Once there is a formation of platelet, primary platelet plug. Primary platelet plug, once it is formed, platelet will lose the cell membrane, and there is a production of viscous mass that helps to entangle, or that helps to assemble the different clotting factors to form a thrombin. Now activated platelets जो है, they generate the chemicals like ADP, PHT, thromboxane. So thromboxane A2 is a potent platelet agonist. Thromboxane A2. Again, stress, shear stress, collagen, adrenaline, PHT, ADP also they are agonists. Circulating fibrinogen will bind to the platelet receptor. Circulating fibrinogen will bind to the platelet receptor. Fibrinogen is converted into fibrin, and fibrin is deposited into, fibrin will get deposited, and it is known as a coagulation of blood. It is known as a coagulation of blood. Formation of fibrin or blood clot is a series of interaction between different blood clotting factors in the plasma which are synthesized in the liver. ये जो blood clotting factors होते हैं जो अपने देखा है, they are nothing but the protein in nature, and they are synthesized in the liver. We have already seen this intrinsic, extrinsic. 2-3 times we have seen this intrinsic, extrinsic factor, right? But heparin will act on this. जो फैक्टर नंबर 12A है, एकमन फैक्टर नंबर 11 है, फैक्टर नंबर 10 है, all these are inactivated by heparin. Thrombin है, that is inactivated by heparin. Number 8A, that is inactivated by heparin. But heparin directly will not inactivate these clotting factors. Heparin will activate the antithrombin 3. Antithrombin 3 will inactivate these clotting factors. So remaining part we'll see tomorrow. Remaining part we'll see tomorrow. So you can see over here in the previous session I have told you there are 16 blood clotting factors. मैंने मेरे लेक्चर में बोला था कि there are 16 blood clotting factor. तो ये 16 blood clotting factor कौन से है वो आपको मैं बोलता हूँ. नॉर्मली ब्लड इज केप्ट फ्लूइड. आपका ब्लड क्या है? नॉर्मली ब्लड फ्लूइड होता है. नॉर्मली ब्लड इज केप्ट फ्लूइड बाय फर्स्ट रैपिड ब्लड फ्लो. ब्लड फ्लो इज कंटिन्यूअस. Blood is always in a motion, that's why rapid blood flow. Then there is a antithrombin 3, है ना. स्मूथ एंडोथेलियम ऑफ ब्लड वेसल, इनर जो लेयर है वो स्मूथ होता है. ब्लड में एंटीथ्रोम्बिन 3 होता है. एंड रिमूवल ऑफ फाइब्रोलाइसिस, ना, जो कुछ छोटे छोटे क्लॉट बनते हैं वो ब्रेक डाउन किए जाते हैं, है ना. एंड हिपेरिन, राइट. Now vitamin, what are the blood clotting factors? So blood clotting factor number 1 is a fibrinogen. Blood clotting factor number 1 is a fibrinogen. Blood clotting factor number 2 is a prothrombin. Blood clotting factor 3 is a thromboplastin. 4th one is known as a calcium. 5th one is known as a proaxelrin or hereditary labile factor or activator globulin. Number 6 is a axelrin, or that is active factor of factor number 5. Factor, most of the books they have not given the factor number 6. Factor number 7 is known as a proconvertin or serum prothrombin conversion accelerator or stable factor. Factor number 8 is known as anti-hemophilic factor, है ना, A. Factor number 9 is known as a Christmas factor or plasma thromboplastin component. Factor number 10 is known as a Stewart power factor. Number 11 is known as a plasma thromboplastin antecedent component PTA or anti-hemophilic factor C. Factor number 8 anti-hemophilic factor A. Factor number 9 is anti-hemophilic factor B. Number 10 is a steward power factor. Factor number 11 is nothing but the anti-hemophilic factor C. Factor number 12 is nothing but the Hegman factor. Factor number 13 is known as a fibrin stability factor. Factor number 14 is known as a pre-calcikyrin. Factor number 15 is known as a calcikyrin. Factor number 16 is known as a platelet factor or high molecular weight kinogen. So there are 16 blood clotting factors. मैंने बोला था I will revise you once more. So factor number 1 is known as a blood clotting factor number 1 is fibrinogen. Blood clotting factor number 2 is a prothrombin. Factor number 3 is a thromboplastin, also known as a tissue factor. Factor number 4 is a calcium. Factor number 5 is a proaxalrin or AC globulin activator globulin, hereditary labile factor. Factor number 6 is a axalrin or active factor of factor 5. Factor number 7 is a proconvertin or stable factor. Factor number 8 is a anti-hemophilic factor A. Factor number 9 is a Christmas factor or anti-hemophilic factor B. Factor number 10 is a steward power factor. Factor number 11 is a plasma thromboplastin antioxidant component or anti-hemophilic factors. Factor number 12 is a Hegman factor, also known as a class factor, also known as a contact factor. Factor number 13 is a fibrin stability factor or von Willebrand factor and a von Willebrand factor. Number 14 is a pre-calcikyrin. Factor number 15 is a calcikyrin. Number 16 is a platelet factor or a high molecular weight kinogen. Now out of this minimum इसके ऊपर minimum 20 times question. Minimum 20 times question आ चुके हैं इसके ऊपर. So that's why I am taking multiple times. 3-4 बार मैंने लिया है. ब्लड क्लॉटिंग फैक्टर्स मैंने 4 बार लिया है. आपको लगा होगा सर क्यों रिपीट कर रहे हैं इसको, बिकॉज क्वेश्चन बहुत बार आ चुके हैं. एंड some of these clotting factors are known as a vitamin K dependent blood clotting factors. What are the vitamin K dependent blood clotting factors? Remember factor number 2 and vitamin K dependent blood clotting factor number 2, then 7, 9 and 10. 2, 7, 9, 10, these are known as vitamin K dependent blood clotting. Why vitamin K dependent I will explain in the upcoming slides. Okay, ये भी अपन ने blood clotting factors already देखे हैं. So remaining part we'll see tomorrow. On the same time you have to come up again. I hope you have understood today. If yes, write down yes in the comment box. I will update test on blood के ऊपर मैं टेस्ट अपलोड कर दूंगा. in the application you have to attend that test.